Okay, welcome again to Oceanside TV, where I am with Julie, Rost. You just said it, and I was like, wait, now I'm going to screw it up. At YogaLife Institute, and we have been collaborating on some fun, exciting adventures coming up over the next couple months. But I'm excited to just show you all what YogaLife has to offer. So, Julie, tell us a little bit about YogaLife and all the amazing things that you all have here.
Okay. Well, YogaLife, we've been here in New Hampshire for about 15, 16 years. And our lineage in yoga actually goes sort of back to Pennsylvania and then back to India, one of the oldest schools in India, around 100 years old. In that, I mean, yoga is obviously 2,000 to 4,000 years old, but
obviously.
Our school, what does
obviously.
That mean? Right. Right, it's ancient, which is, I think, part of its power, really.
Yeah.
And in that it still really speaks to people, and that, in this case, our yoga school was one of the very first, if not the first, school of yoga where yoga was actually brought down from the mountain ashrams, where you studied with a guru, and brought to the people in the city and taught to women as well. So it's a very
cool.
Exciting lineage, I think.
Yeah.
And I guess I mention that because it very much frames what kind of yoga we do.
Yeah.
It's very much yoga meant for, in India, what they call the householder. So those of us with families, jobs, stressful life, how can we understand yoga and utilize all the benefits of yoga for mind, body, and spirit when we're living these very busy lives?
Yeah, that sounds, we're dealing with the same thing.
Yeah?
I mean, the 2,000 years later.
Right, exactly. That's right, yeah. And here, I guess in Exeter, I would say now what we have is we are a yoga studio, so we have yoga classes that I can talk a little bit more specifically about. We also do workshops like that, which we do with you.
Yeah, a lot of great workshops.
With other, healers and healthcare practitioners. And we also we train yoga teachers at the 200-hour level, the 300-hour level, and also yoga therapy practices. So practices for working with people privately.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say with the collaboration, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we've had some conversations, that this studio really speaks to everybody in the way that there's very gentle practices here. There's
Yes.
Some yoga studios it's about power yoga and almost
Exercise.
like exercise, almost like you're taking boot camp and making it yoga, and that's not YogaLife.
That's not where our focus is.
Yeah.
We recognize that a lot of people love that, and a lot of people maybe even need that. It's a great way to release tension in the body and gain strength. Our focus really seems to be more around how to bring people to all the other aspects of yoga, which would be usually a more gentle practice. So we have, we start with chair yoga classes here. We then also have, people can come for gentle yoga, and then we have yoga that sort of, you might call all levels, and our teachers are quite well trained and listen really well for the students that arrive, and kind of create the classroom accordingly, which is part of where we're really looking forward to your input to help us do that better, because our style of yoga is very personal. We recognize that people come with lots of different injuries. They're recovering from perhaps surgery or acute or chronic conditions, and we see them very much as an individual and are able to modify the class, whether it's working with them individually, small groups, or large groups. We can modify, and most of that comes by, and this is again where we have some overlap in our work, really creating a safe environment in which people can start to listen to themselves and what they need.
And this is where a lot of our collaboration has come to fruition, where I have referred patients to people that have similar language, philosophies,
Mm-hmm.
So that they can continue through a practice and a lifestyle, going forward. I think,
Well, the other thing that I love, so there's creating an environment for people and seeing everyone as individuals. And most people will say, I just feel really safe. I feel really at home when I come to your yoga studio. So we do that well. I think the other thing we do well, which is a constant evolution, is work together with other people to update our understanding of physical health, but also energetic health and emotional health. So I think we're all really energized by collaborating with you because we see so much overlap. I think I was saying to you earlier, one of the most common things that we share is seeing people that are in a lot of pain and potentially also feeling pretty beaten down, and disempowered and not getting support. That is like, we see that too much.
Yeah, too much for sure.
And so I know you and I are really passionate about tending to that and creating environments in which people can move through that, listen to all those great, ripe, horrible, difficult emotions that come along with the physical pain and all that, but to move through the awarenesses and the practices that will help them begin to gain their core, right? We're talking about.
But even from an emotional standpoint, when you were just describing power, you just went, like I'm good. When you're not, it's very, this is awful.
That's what we see.
Right, and so that manifests physically for sure. And so tapping into the physicality of where that confidence and support comes from.
Yes.
The pelvic floor, of course.
It is, and it's such a beautiful metaphor, and it always is. I mean, the body is almost always a beautiful metaphor for other aspects, that we need to strengthen and bring balance to our lives. So we as yoga teachers are really excited to, we have this ancient language, these ancient practices, but one thing is that they've come from a different culture. So we're always having to reinterpret, which is where you continue to help us do that. What's actually happening? How are we doing with our pelvic floor and our posture and our movement and all that, and why are pelvic floor issues so common right now, and why are so many of us in a state of disempowerment, and what can we do about it?
And I think this is where I see the mind-body connection. It's not just meaning like do exercise and go to talk therapy. It's much more of a loop. It's not just like two trains going up and down. It's not this linear movement. It's so much more encompassing. And so if there's emotions, it's going to present physically. If there's a physical injury, it's going to present emotionally. And so, and I'm super simplifying it as well.
Right.
But
I know.
But it's just all encompassing, which is so nice to have people respect the sort of 360 aspect of what healing is.
Yes.
Even if it's not physical healing.
Right.
And just that they're all involved. And so
they're all one in some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what yoga would say. And I go like this because it is sort of like a sphere. And the outermost layer in yoga anyway is the body. And then a little more subtle is our energy, and a little more subtle is our emotional beings. We've already kind of reflected on some of that already. A little more subtle then is our thoughts. What do we think about ourselves? If I don't feel very good about myself, you can see I'm not breathing, I'm slouching, my muscles are getting weak, and then I come to you.
Right, because you have a symptom. And I think that's what has driven me to connect so much with and collaborate with so many other practitioners, because especially with the pelvic floor, I find that the physical dysfunction that brings people to me always is on top of, you said all these other spheres. Right. And so no one of us can help all of that. That's so everybody needs a team and something that resonates with them, which is why I highlight different people, because this studio, I think, offers so much. It may not resonate, but it may resonate. Mm-hmm. So if it does, it just provides so much in the way of this.
Yeah, so I would say people who have never tried yoga before are kind of scared to do yoga. They definitely will usually resonate with our studio and our teachings. People sometimes also who have just been practicing for a long time and want to kind of get a little more subtle with their practice. They want to, they know the poses, they know the practice, but maybe they want to slow it down a little bit. Maybe they want more quiet, more stillness, more breathing, more meditation. So
Yeah.
you can really come into it.
You know, I've known quite a few people that have done your teacher training program for really personal development
That's
as
right.
well.
Yeah.
And so, and I didn't necessarily think that that was an avenue to recommend to people, but I think I've seen really tremendous growth in people when they go through that teacher training program.
I always try to channel people. So people come to me for private yoga therapy for usually stress in some way, and typically it's manifested in pain in some way, but I almost always try to steer them towards that yoga teacher training program, because I know that, you know, this is a lifestyle change that people want to make now. They're suffering, they're stuck, they know what they're doing isn't working, they want something new, and it's a big change, and it really helps to have supportive community, and to read the ancient texts and all this ancient wisdom, and to do the practices ourselves, and then what we find is that those are the best yoga teachers. Yeah,
and I think that the community too, so that's something that's missing. So not just going to a yoga class or exercising, having a community that you're really learning,
because
and it's part of you.
You're not alone. You know, we are all suffering. We all have pain of one kind or another, often physical, at least one thing. We all have emotional pain. We all have spiritual pain. And I'm really seeing so much more of this now, where it just feels like we're really meant to collaborate now with each other. It's no longer that hierarchy, you know, you have to go to someone who tells you what to do. That doesn't work anymore. That's disempowered.
Yeah, very much so.
We need our teachers, we need our healers, we need our professionals, but we need to go empowered with what we also know.
Yeah, you need guidance.
Yeah,
coaching, you need coaching, mentoring.
Yeah, and then
but it's all about you.
Is that I'm always learning, even from my students, and my own understanding of all of this evolves as I talk with my students and learn from them. It's not a one-way.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to offer some of the more sort of evolved physical concepts that I have, the knowledge I've gained with the pelvic floor. And I think this is through the patients, but I think it's such a missing piece, and there's a million reasons why it has been missing, whether it's in, you know, healthcare, yoga practice, exercise, fitness professionals. It's missing everywhere. Women's education sort of just didn't include this area. And so there's so much information now that is kind of debunking some of the old cueing, and I just think that if you add and respect the totality of kind of the human experience, but then add some updated info, it's actually really powerful, because it's more in tune with the actual experience. Some of the pieces, if they're not in line, for example, if I said pull your navel to your spine, that might resonate with somebody. It might not at all with some people. They might not have any idea what that means, where their pelvic floor is. And so having many pieces of information and having the understanding to connect everything together, and how it really resonates with breathing, which is why I think yoga is so powerful. For the pelvic floor.
I feel like so many of the sort of updated truths and observations you've made, you know, you've made some very subtle and specific observations about pelvic floor health, where the weaknesses are, what cues work for some people and not others, even what yoga poses might be most effective or to be avoided. And I feel like yoga teachers will super benefit from your teaching for a number of reasons. One, you know, in yoga we have this mula bandha, some people have heard of, a root lock, which is similar to what you might teach in terms of engaging the pelvic floor muscles. But as you've said so many times, you know, even in yoga, we don't really talk about the perineum or the pelvic floor very much. Even yoga teachers need a little more exposure to that language and to feel more comfortable using that language. Yoga teachers also, I noticed in my own practice that it took a number of years before I really had a mind-body awareness that I could understand the ancient teachings on the energetic lock and the kind of redirection of energy up the spine. So
I think culturally there's a huge dissociation with this area. So it's not, you know, information that you sort of knew or didn't know. It's that you have to really reconnect, because we've actually had so many years of dissociating and not having, and shame and not having information. So neurologically it takes some time to figure out what things feel like. And you can call it mula bandha or a kegel, and even though it's much different, but it's the same area, it might be experienced the same way as like a huge question mark. if there's not other pieces of information and awareness that make that sensation resonate and be able to translate into whatever practice you're doing.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've actually started already incorporating some of what you and I have talked about in my teaching. It just kind of came in, right in, and including with somebody privately who was doing, that thing of kind of just sucking the belly, which just isn't quite enough. Yeah. And your whole idea of the new core. Including the pelvic area first. And I found it actually quite easy to incorporate that subtle language, and I really noticed a difference, honestly, in myself. It's hard to talk about, but when we get the energy engagement right, it's very powerful. Yeah. And I get, and it does change, and you go from this to, and it's not, it's not doing this. It's actually like, it's a different piece, and you actually just look confident. And feel confident. Yeah. Well,
I'm so excited. I think we have many things on the horizon, workshops, collaboration, and I just know that YogaLife is a great place. So check it out.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks so much for watching that video. Please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of those videos and keep learning on how to read your body. Have a great day.